Hello, my sister. I'm basically city creation. Basically, we are discussing this file. So another person told that what actually HIV/AIDS is. Yeah, basically we are not. So HIV/AIDS is what basically? That is basically the immunity basically, and immunity basically will get damage basically from your body basically. So that basically you can say it's a one punishment basically. You can say punishment given by God group basically. God group and by the government basically. Government basically sitting at the parliament house basically. Who created the entire world basically. They basically gives the punishment that give that person basically HIV/AIDS. Literally basically they say that only basically. Give AIDS and basically. Why? Because everything basically I am telling because on last day of world everything is going to calculate. That's why basically. So be ready for that basically. Be ready for the last day of world basically. So one of the person told that this is going to calculate basically. That is HIV/AIDS. Not last day of universe basically, last day of world basically. So one of the person told that HIV/AIDS is connecting to the punishment basically given by the. For example, one person is basically got HIV/AIDS in India. So Indian Parliament House basically the people who are sitting at the Indian Parliament House still basically they are sitting. They will be responsible for this HIV/AIDS. And assume that basically one person basically got HIV/AIDS in South Africa or basically Australia or USA or basically got AIDS in West Indies. So here the government of that group will be responsible. Assume basically that that person basically got HIV/AIDS in Pakistan. So Pakistan government will be responsible. So here one of the person told that how basically they decides that this person basically has to give HIV/AIDS. That is also one of the question basically. So one of the person told that HIV/AIDS basically spreads from where basically? That is through injections. Then basically it spreads from girls. Then basically it spreads from some other objects basically which you use sometime basically use. So that are the ways basically. So one of the person told that how they basically use that basically, how they decides that basically this person is supposed to get HIV/AIDS from injection or basically from girl basically. So one of the person told that yeah, that basically is the very dangerous question basically. So one of the person told that how basically they give it basically. That is also one of the question basically. How they basically decides that इसको AIDS दे दो. So one of the person told that how they might be deciding without seeing his activity basically, they basically can decide no that is not possible. So how basically they say basically see basically thing. So one of the person told that basically is very interesting question basically. So again basically we will go to that song basically.
कैसी बेकरारी है कैसा नशा है तुमसे दिल लगाने की सजा है ये तुमसे दिल लगाने की सजा है
So this is that song basically. So this is basically one of the person told that this HIV/AIDS no, basically that is actually one punishment basically, because your each and every body parts get damaged basically. Your head get damaged. You basically can't think a single thing basically. You basically can't see the thing basically. You basically your hand get damaged. Your heart get damaged. Your stomach get damaged. Your private part basically get damaged. Each and every parts basically gets damaged. That is when basically when HIV/AIDS basically spreads very badly basically. When basically when HIV/AIDS gets spread very badly. When the doctors basically think that basically this person if he will die na, then it might create problem in future basically. So they basically tries to save that person basically. So that is one side basically. Assume that basically they the doctor thought that basically इसको तो मरने दो साले को, इसको तो मरने दो. That is basically in Hindi basically. So say in English basically, let him die basically. So that is basically the thing. So one of the person told that the government and the group basically who basically are connected with the governments, they basically decide इसको AIDS देना है कि नहीं देना. Because everything is basically going to calculate on the last day of world. That's why basically. So be ready for that basically. So one of the person told that, and any time basically last day will come basically of the world, not the universe basically. So one of the person told that HIV/AIDS basically is connected with the punishment basically. So one of the person told that, yeah, how basically government decides basically. For example, assume that basically one person basically got HIV/AIDS from girl basically. Assume that basically. That means the government has decided that basically girl is basically responsible for your HIV/AIDS. So you had done something basically bad with the girls basically. On last day everything is going to calculate, that's why. So on you had done something basically wrong with the girl basically. So assume that basically assume that one person basically got HIV/AIDS in India basically. So government told that basically you had done something bad with the Indian girl basically. Indian girls and the future Indian girls basically, they are not supposed to suffer basically, and they should basically feel proud that basically we are Indian girl. So for that basically they basically given HIV/AIDS to that particular person basically. So that the future Indian girl basically they will should feel they should basically feel proud basically. See basically we have given, they basically creates the lesson basically. Government basically creates the lesson that basically see basically, and nowadays basically government don't play front basically. They basically say front. They basically have given front side to the private group, that is Adani's, Ambani's, Tata's. They have given this front side to them, and then basically the government are playing from back basically. So that basically they will give AIDS, and then basically they will go back, and then basically they will play from back basically. And they will say that basically, see basically these private groups are handling basically the India basically. So everything, if anything basically big will happen basically in future, that is 100% going to happen. That will be going to affect to the private group. So how private group basically is going to plan everything basically? That is also one of the question. One of the person told that basically. So one of the person told that this HIV/AIDS basically is given, assume that basically it is given by the Indian government. That means Indian government say that basically you have done something bad to the Indian girl. So we will say that basically how many Indian girls basically are there in India. So this is the count basically of Indian girls. This is the count of the Indian girls. So in next video basically we are going to see a little bit more about these Indian girls. Due to that person basically got HIV/AIDS.